So let's look at this early painting by Renoir. It's a portrait of a very young girl. I want to focus on the pieces of the painting. So you have this darkish midtone flowing from the upper right to the lower left, and it's sort of one piece. I mean, it's what could be wallpaper, or sort of a view into a very dark garden. It doesn't really matter, but it sort of pushes itself into the front. It's in the back, pushes itself in the front, as well the colors that punctuate the back make their way into the front. They make the roses in the girl's hands, and also the earrings and the lips, and sort of a little bit of the tint of the lighter tone of the flesh. And as well, there's some blue in the background, and that makes its way into the design of the girl's clothes. I also want to stress how the girl's drapery. You have her shirt is sort of this light value that binds with the flesh, and it's sort of the treble of the value system, and then the belt and her hair sort of hit the base, you could call it, and they sort of set the range for the painting, and the rest of it is this mid-tone that sort of moves around in the figure, and the figure is part of that movement, yet at the same time separate. It's separate in space. You have the figure, you have the chair, you have the drapery in the back, or the curtain, and then the wallpaper, or the view into the garden again, or so there's a pot. It doesn't matter. And this is I'm bringing this up because this painting was done when Renoir was 23. I think he had only been studying full-time for a few years. He probably had been studying a long time, but he had jobs before then, and that were sort of somewhat tangentially related to oil painting, but he had this quality in his work where there's an image, it's a portrait, and that's how we talk about it. We talk about Renoir's portrait, but there's also more important things going on that make it dynamic. You have this space, and you have this design flowing through, and they're both in tension with each other, where you have they're kind of two things at once, and that makes the painting alive. And it's so simple. I mean, look how look at the drapery, look at the way the roses are simply done. Nothing's really fussed around with. Yet, at the same time, it's very beautifully done. I mean, look at the modeling of the face, and it's just fantastic. And I also want to highlight that this isn't this really sort of kind of proto-impressionistic way of painting. This is sort of how a lot of the paintings that sort of made painting famous in the first place, have this sort of quality, this dual quality, where it's clearly an image and there's clearly space, yet at the same time there's this wonderful movement and sort of contradiction within the painting of things in the back flowing into the front, things in the front flowing into the back. Yes, it's just wonderful.